Here we are down at Big Plant Nursery in our growing nursery. I'm with our favourite palm, Trachycarpus fortunei. Also known, if you look around the internet, you'll see it called Chusan palm, Windmill palm, Chinese fan palm, and in old books they'll call it Camrops excelsa. Correct name, Trachycarpus fortunei. Perhaps one of the best palms you can grow in the UK. Certainly the hardiest palm you can grow in the UK. It's been here, I guess, well over 100 years, planted in many of the old Victorian gardens. It was first discovered, allegedly, in northern China by a chap called Robert Fortune, a Victorian plant hunter, who brought seed back, and subsequently the plants were planted around the UK in various old gardens. It's a lovely palm, got a hairy trunk, big palmate leaves. As it's naturally kind of woodland palm, it's evolved to cope with both sun and shade. Here at the nursery we're on quite heavy clay. I've dug holes and there's been water in the holes from the clay. Put the trachy in, thought, am I doing the right thing? Absolutely, look at them. These Trachycarpus here, by the way, well, they're over 3, maybe 4 metres tall, some of these. They were planted when they were this tall, no more than 10 years ago. Look at the size of them now. I like them so much, as you can see, I planted a hedge of them. I'm not suggesting you do that, but certainly the best palm by far. There are others that come close, such as Trachycarpus Wagnerianus, terrible name, but I'll talk about that one later. One thing about Trachycarpus is that they flower. A lot of people don't realise that, but the flowers that they're produced are really quite big and showy. These are old flower spikes now that are looking a bit tired. On the male, great big hanging panicles of sulphur yellow flowers, and on the female, they're a kind of duller colour, not quite as bright, but yellow, sometimes occasionally green. Anyway, this is a male palm. There's no seeds on it. It's just flowers that produce pollen. So what I'm going to do now is just tidy it up so that it, they look a bit worn and tired. So best thing to do whenever you prune trachy is prune it tight to the trunk. So get some secateurs, straight in, cut it tight, keep it clean so you don't have bits sticking out from the stem. So just prune away quite tight on the stem, and it's pretty easy. I mean, really, you shouldn't spend more than 20 minutes a year on a palm, if that. It's a simple process of keeping it tidy. Also, there's a leaf here. It's got a bit old and tatty. I'll get rid of that. Again, prune it really tight to the trunk. Keep it smooth. And you want to end up really with a nice smooth trunk. Lots of hair. I love the hairy bits on trackies, but just keep it smooth so you don't have snags sticking out from it. Here we have a Trachycarpus Wagnerianus, better known by most in the trade as Waggies. It's like a Trachycarpus fortunei, very, very closely related. It just has stiffer leaf petioles. That's the stem that holds the leaf. They're slightly more robust than Trachycarpus fortunei, and the leaf itself is much tougher. It's not as big. It's much smaller, as you can see. Fortunei leaf would be out here, but it is very stiff, and when they're young like this it looks really neat. The trunk itself can grow as big as normal Trachycarpus, 3, 4, 5, 6 or even more meters, after many years of course. But the main virtue is that it's slightly more tolerant of wind. Because the leaf's stiff like this, you can see it doesn't move much. Doesn't get damaged quite so much as fortunei does in the wind, and very neat habit when it's young. The only Achilles heel, in my opinion, is that when it gets larger and the trunk is metre 50 to 2 metres or more, the foliage doesn't look quite as impressive. It looks a bit diminutive. whereas a normal Trachycarpus looks more impressive when it's larger. But having said that, still a very good palm, just as hardy as fortunei. They seem to be equally as fast growing, and altogether nice little palm. Trachycarpus Wagnerianus, or Waggies as we affectionately call them. So here we have some Trachycarpus fortunei in containers. These plants are all ready to go, really. This size, starting mid-20s, mid-40s, 150 to 200 pounds, 350, 400 pounds on onwards, really. We can do them larger than this as well. Trachys, as you can see, lovely. Dark green, healthy. Always choose a dark green palm. If your palm is yellowy, it means it's hungry. So choose a nice, strong, healthy dark green palm. Always look in the centre. Check that in the centre you've got new leaves coming out. Nice, strong. They should always have new leaves coming out. Even in the middle of winter, you should see new growth on them. What you can do with Trachycarpus, you can buy a young one and you can grow it in a container. You can grow it in a container for many years. Simple rule basically, repot them every 18 months to 2 years, go about 50% larger, use a rich compost. We would use a base compost of an ericaceous, which is an acidic compost, the kind of compost that you'd buy for rhododendrons or azaleas, and then we'd add to it a mixture of John and his number 3, about 15%, something like that. Doesn't have to be exact, just enough to give it a buffer, make it a bit more weighty and a bit more sustainable for long-term container cultivation. They can position sun or shade. They look great in this is a shady spot here. They look really jungly, lovely. What we do here at the nursery as well is through the growing period, say from April through till mid-September, we feed them with a seaweed extract fertiliser. Keep the container moist. They don't like to dry out. Even in winter, make sure that the container is moist. Moist but never standing in water. Plant a Trachycarpus anytime from mid-April, depending on where you live, but if it's warm, mid-April right through until August. If you do want to grow it in a container, I recommend that you make some measures or do something to prevent the roots from freezing in the winter. Trachycarpus, as I've said, are hardy. They're absolutely fine in the UK, but if the pot freezes, the roots can be damaged, and that can actually cause significant injury or even death. They're not designed to have their roots frozen. So what we do, if you're going to grow one in an ornamental container, and that's going to be for quite a period of time, I'd recommend lining the inside of the container with something like bubble plastic to act as insulation, or even put polystyrene or something like that to give an insulation buffer to it. If you've already done it and you haven't done that, think about lagging the pot with hessian or something like that during the winter, or bring the palm next to the house, to the supply wall, so it's going to get a sort of more benefit from a microclimate. So aside from that, there's not much else you need to worry about. Don't put them in exposed windy spots, because these big leaves will blow around and get damaged. Ideally, I would put mine in sort of from full shade to dappled shade, because they look so good. They'll tolerate full sun, but you just got to water them more. Just bear that in mind. That's it.